Welcome to Plant Your Seed. I'm your host, Fred Ferris. On each episode, we share stories of how ordinary people have transformed their lives. Each story is compassionate, each story is authentic, and each story is a transformation. Here are the stories of the people who are changing our world by transitioning to a plant-based diet. Today on Plant Your Seed, joining us from Boston, Massachusetts, we have Pat McAuley. Pat is a Boston-based serial entrepreneur, author, TEDx speaker, and wellness advocate. He is the host of the popular Eat Green, Make Green podcast and founder of PlantPub, a plant-based food and craft beer brand. Welcome, Pat.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Thanks for being here. Let's start with your vegan journey. How did you start, and what was the aha moment or trigger moment that started you down this path?
Yeah, so I found myself at about 25 years old, ex-college football player that kind of no longer had my sport, but was very much still eating like a college football player. And there were just a lot of things. It wasn't that I was overweight or really sick, as I think most people define it. But I just had certain things that I didn't like. You know, I had joint pain and arthritis. I had asthma since I was a young kid. I had, allergies that I would carry an EpiPen for, and just a number of kind of, again, what we would consider normal health issues. And I just wasn't super energetic, and I would have my days where I was just kind of tired and dragging and things like that. And I've always been just very interested in leading the healthiest life I can. And even when I was eating like a football player, it was still what I thought was healthy, which was, the lean meats and the eggs for breakfast and, chicken for lunch, steak for dinner type deal, and just, kind of the typical high protein approach to diet. And when I sort of took the sport away and you're no longer like active 3-4 hours a day, I found myself really having to like bust my butt to kind of maintain my level of fitness that I had prior. And I just got to a point I realized like it didn't matter how many hours I put in the gym or how many miles I ran a week, that, I needed to change something else. And for me, that came to diet. And it took me a while to realize that, just because like I was following to a T what everybody told me was the path, from my, prior coaches to prior college nutritionists to doctors to, anybody I ever asked that question to, and I was so much healthier than my peers and, the people around me, that I just always thought I was doing the right thing. And I just stumbled upon a guy on social media that, looked very energetic, and he was all shredded up and looked good, and he was big into fruit smoothies and green smoothies. And, I was like, all right, let me just switch out my eggs in the morning for this green smoothie. And, up until that point, I had never had like a meal really ever in my life, when I think about it, of just 100% raw, whole plant foods. I'd fill that thing with a bunch of kale and spinach and, frozen mango and frozen blueberries and, other frozen fruits and bananas. And, I had already switched to plant-based milk. I was already drinking almond milk at the time. So it really was just this shot of 100% plant-based goodness. And I just never felt what that felt like before, right? It was always, my meals were always surrounded by, that idea of protein. And this just gave me this whole new level of feeling good in the morning. And, I'm sure we'll talk about kind of all the changes that take place. But for me, it just started really as an experiment to see if I could change something on the diet front. And I sort of stumbled through trial and error. I felt so good after changing my breakfast that I wanted to change my lunch and I wanted to change my dinner. And I went through this period of like, probably a 4 to 6 week period where I was just pounding green smoothies and fruit smoothies and, just eating apples and mangoes and all this stuff. And I just couldn't believe all the things that started to change, and that was my gateway, and that was really why I went plant-based. And there's more to why I am now vegan. And we can get into that, but that was really the spark, just looking to better my health and feel better, and I kind of stumbled into it.
Now, when was this?
I started experimenting around summer 2015, so I'm going on 6 years or so, something like that.
Nice. What are some of the positive changes that you noticed both mentally and physically?
I would say the first one right off the bat, kind of the most noticeable one, is your digestion changes. And the week of smoothies, like the amount of times I'm going to the bathroom, and you just feel lighter, you feel more energetic, like things go in your body and out your body a lot more efficiently and quickly. And that alone, I feel like, impacted my workouts, impacted my breathing, impacted my sleep, impacted everything. And I would say that was the first thing I noticed. The second thing is just the amount of energy. And I thought I was a high energy person before, and I realized that I had just never experienced how good I could actually feel. So the energy, not having to reach for as much coffee, especially in the afternoon, don't do the afternoon coffee or anything. That switched pretty quick, just because I had so much energy buzzing through me. And then when you have all that energy buzzing through you, like the other things that come with that, like you don't have to drag yourself to go out for a run. You don't have to drag yourself to the gym. You just have this newfound energy buzzing through you, and you want to go move your body. It's like a natural thing when you put the right foods in your body. So those were some of the first big things. Sleep also got a lot better. And then over the course of the first 6 months, 6 months into being, probably 95% whole food, plant-based, all those things I mentioned that I had had since a little kid started going away. The joint pain, the asthma, the allergies, the everything I ever suffered from, dating back to being 2-3 years old, are just going away. And that for me was the aha moment, and kind of the wake up call of, I was just shocked nobody pointed me in this direction. Nobody gave me that information. Nobody ever said, hey dude, it's totally cool if you want to keep eating and living the way you're living, and you can keep managing those with your inhalers and your pills and the stuff you've been prescribed, or you can change what's actually causing those things. And I was just so shocked that nobody had told me that information, and that was my aha moment. And that was kind of the big empowering moment of realizing I and we have so much more control over our health than we think we do and have been led to believe.
Right now, by people, you mean doctors, or do you mean like coaches? Do you mean like your parents?
I mean all of the above. Yeah, I mean, my on the doctor front, like my experience was always, doctor tells you what's wrong, then they give you the thing to manage what is wrong. And they might, say, actually, they didn't even for me, because I've always been a healthy weight and I've always been a fit person. They never even said, as they were kicking me out the door, hey, keep eating healthy, or anything like that. Like it wasn't even a conversation. My parents' friend, my dad, I similar to what you were saying before, disease is very much, I don't want to say runs in the family, because I don't believe disease runs in the family, but our family has a history of disease. And my dad had open heart surgery in his mid to late 30s. And he, for a time, he discovered people like Dean Ornish around that time, when he was changing some things with his diet and trying to make sure that never happened again.
Right.
So there was an awareness of that, but I think over the years, and the further kind of they got away from that incident, you kind of fell back into old habits. And not that they were forcing anything on us, and I will say they did their best with, we never had like really high sugar, processed stuff in the house. And
You didn't have a breakfast of Fruit Loops and chocolate milk?
right, we were like, we might have Wheaties, but my mom wouldn't buy Fruit Loops. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
So
do.
there was some awareness, but I was also, they're also, we're raising 8 kids, and it was whatever mom could cook in bulk, and they did their best is what I'm trying to get at. But yeah, certainly not coaches or doctors ever talked about any of that stuff. Again, it was all that focus on that word protein.
Now, you mentioned you have your parents had 8 kids. You're one of 8. Now, are any of your brothers and sisters sliding to the plant-based side?
Yes, definitely. I would say probably half of them are very close, if not fully plant-based. The other half are obviously very aware of everything, and I think for a lot of them, it's kind of like a fallback thing, which I think is empowering as well. They know when they do get sick, or they are, have a cold, that, you don't continue eating the same things. It's like, all right, step up your juices and your fruits and your smoothies. And so everybody has that awareness. But I would say, yeah, it's trickled out to probably half the family as a full-on lifestyle, which is really cool to see.
And is that all because of you? You're pushing it at them, or every family barbecue, you're like, hey, come on, plant-based.
Maybe early on, yes. I have certainly over the years, changed my tune with that, and am a lot more respectful of where everybody is coming from, and understanding that not everybody has my experience. But yeah, I mean, I think I am a very fit person. I'm an energetic person. I'm a person that loves life. I'm a person that, is just full of life, I hope. And I think they see that and they say, oh, like, maybe they thought I was crazy 6 years ago, but here I am 6 years later, and I'm, I haven't been to a doctor since, and I'm, out running 14 miles on a Sunday. And it's just like, I think when people see that, they kind of naturally ask those questions, and kind of gravitate. Hey, what are you eating? Can you send me some ideas for breakfast, et cetera?
Right. Yeah, lead by example.
100%. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned you didn't think disease runs in families. I like to think of it as diets run in families. And when you think about it that way, sometimes when you're eating, and this happened with me, with my dad, I'm Irish, we'd eat meat and potatoes like every single day. And then you start to think that, okay, well, maybe this is the reason that disease runs in families.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I would say lifestyle runs in families, right? And, and I think we all kind of know what that looks like, right? You're either the family that, your idea of a Saturday is, brunch, then, watching Sunday of the Masters on the couch all day, and then going out to dinner and drinks. You're kind of either that family, and I think, like, if that's what you grew up doing, like a lot of people end up, kind of doing those same sort of things, or you're the family that, you spend Saturday outside, taking a hike, and being active, and, coming home and making a healthy meal, and all, sitting out on the porch, and, continuing to get fresh air, and things like that. So, yeah, I mean, I think we know now, and I hope most people know now, that, like, your genes don't determine your fate, and we're able with our lifestyle to turn on and off genes. And, for me, I think my family is probably somewhere in between the two, of the sitting on the couch and, I think they're health-minded people that sit on the couch and watch the Masters on Sunday, if you will, right? It's a little bit of a combination. And yeah, I just want to personally, I just want to be the person that kind of breaks that chain, if you will.
Yeah, now you mentioned that it was empowering. I think that is one of the most underestimated things that happen to you when you do go to a plant-based diet is that you become in charge of your food as opposed to the food being in charge of you. What are your thoughts on that?
I love it. Yeah, I think that is probably when it comes to health, the number one thing, the empowerment aspect, right? And just knowing that my decisions, again, to bring it back to kind of how I grew up, it was like when somebody had a heart attack or, grandpa, both my grandfathers died of cancer when I was young, those were always seen as things oh, they're sad things and there was nothing they could do about it. And, it happens to everybody, and just sort of the idea that you have no control over those things.
Right.
And when you realize you do have control, how empowering that is, and that, wow, my daily decisions starting when we're young, starting today, and if I do them consistently over time, I get to determine the outcome. And I've had on my podcast, I've had all kinds of different healers and Ayurvedic type people and people that have studied cancer remission and healing of all sorts. And just the, in not to get into placebo effect and things like that, but just the belief that you are in control has a health effect as well.
Sure.
So yeah, I think the empowerment is huge, and I just feel fully in control of my health, and I feel like I have a set of tools now, specifically with my diet, that I can pull out when I need to. I get a little runny nose. It's not take a pill. It's adjust what I'm doing so that runny nose goes away. You know what I mean?
Persistency and consistency is so important. I mean, it's just small little baby steps is all people have to do in order to change a huge part of their lives. All they have to do is change, like you did, change your breakfast, and then slowly move to the next thing and the next thing. And before you know it, you're healthy and you're off of the pills and you're off of the inhalers and you're off of the doctor prescribed everything. And that's so important.
Yeah, and I think to piggyback on that, where so many people go wrong is they set out to go plant-based, or they set out to go vegan, right from the jump, right? And they're like getting off the couch and putting the Doritos down, and they're gonna wake up tomorrow and they're gonna be 100% whole food plant-based.
Right.
And I think for a small percentage of people that might work if you're kind of like an all or nothing type person, and that's how you get down, and when you do something, you go all in. But I think for 99% of people, it's all right, change the breakfast, do that for 2 weeks, make that a new habit, move to lunch, change your lunch, make that a new habit. And yeah, and I think we're creatures of habit, and then all of a sudden you're at the grocery store 3 months later, and you've changed those 3 meals, and now you're on autopilot. You're just picking up the stuff for those X amount of meals, and you kind of, we all get in our routines where we essentially buy the same thing, and go to the same places, and you just got to change what that autopilot is.
What did you struggle with, if anything, when you first became plant-based?
I think the biggest thing I struggled with was now living in a world where you see what's kind of going on. That was very overwhelming for me, right? And especially with friends and family, when you see them struggling and you feel like you have the answers. You know you have the answers.
Right.
And how to, properly communicate to them and be of service to them and help them without coming across the wrong way. But just, yeah, feeling like I have all the answers, and seeing other people, either ignoring that or choosing to ignore that, um, and struggling. Nobody likes to see people struggling and sick, and you just want others to experience this level of vitality, and energy that you're experiencing, and you just want it so bad for them. You just want them to feel what you're feeling, and they, again, everybody's on their own path, and I'm sure I somewhere down the line ran into a person like that, that was further along in their journey when I was, eating what I was eating in the past, and they were probably thinking the same thing. But that's what I struggled with most, is feeling like I had all the answers and nobody listening.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes people just have to be ready for the message, right?
Totally.
You just you can't push it on anybody, whether you have all the answers and you feel you do or not. The people have to be ready. And like you said, it's almost like the Matrix, where all of a sudden you see things that you never saw before. And you're like, how come nobody understood this? How come nobody told me? How come no one understands this? Like when you talk to people and they say, oh yeah, cows just give milk. And you're like, no, that's not the way it works.
Yeah, I'll give you an example too. One of the first summers I was plant-based, I did, for the first time, what's the bike race, Pan Mass Challenge.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And it's everybody's out there biking 2 days to raise money for cancer research, right? For Dana-Farber or whatever it is. And then we all get together at the end of the 2 days and we drink a bunch of beer. We eat hot dogs. We eat, hamburgers. We eat, and there's just this massive disconnect. We're out there all raising money for cancer research, and we're putting all this crap that we know is carcinogenic to humans in our bodies to celebrate that. And so that's the world you step into when kind of you open your eyes.
No, you're right. It's amazing. It's almost like seeing a doctor smoking outside the emergency room, right? You're like, okay, you should know better.
And they used to do that, in the 70s, right?
Right. No,
that was normal.
Exactly. Now, was there anything that held you back from being vegan?
No. I mean, I don't have a good answer to that other than no. The only thing that was holding me back was my perceptions and my beliefs. I mean, my belief was that I was going to lack all these things. I was going to waste away and not be able to lift weights and be a fit dude. And it was just my perception and my beliefs. That was the only thing holding me back.
All right, let's get to your current venture. Okay.
Yeah.
PlantPub. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So I, over the course of this transformation in my life, I have wanted to not only share my story, but, empower people to make the change in their life to eating more plant-based. And, my podcast and sort of all that is one piece of that. And I just really wanted to align fully, 24 hours a day, myself with that mission to help people, take back control of their life and, do great for the world while we're doing that. And, in Boston, as being from here, and living in New Hampshire, Boston is interesting in that it's progressive, but it's very conservative in a strange way as well. And especially men in Boston, we don't like these LA hippie trends and these Portland, Oregon trends and these things that start in LA and come to New York.
I blame the Celtics on that.
Yeah.
The old Boston LA rivalry. I think that's what it is.
That's right. That's right. And yeah, and I was like, all right, well, how do you, I would go to LA and I would go to New York, and I'd be able to have these like normal social experiences and eat 100% plant-based.
Right.
And it was just more normal there. And I'd go and I'd have an amazing craft beer with like, this beautiful healthy bowl of greens and grains and all this stuff. And it was just more normalized. And Boston just did not have that. And as I've like talked with people and shared information with people and tried to help people, probably the biggest thing I would say that prevents people from going full on into this is the social aspect.
Sure.
They're not confident enough, or they're not cool with being a pain in the ass when they're out to dinner, asking for the salad without cheese, or being a inconvenience for friends to suggest we go to a certain place, or all this stuff. And I just wanted to take that social experience and make it totally approachable and totally normal, and welcoming. So not a place where there's like Buddhas on the wall and like rainbow colors and like all this shit that like people are, especially men are turned off by, and create a place where you can go, you can watch the Patriots, you can have a beer if you choose to drink, you can have a non-alcoholic beer if you choose not to drink, you can have a raw whole food plant-based meal, or you can have a double-decker Impossible Burger with with all the works on it. And I still every now and then love a burger and a beer myself, even though I'm super health conscious. And I think there's a place for those things, and I just wanted a place where it was normal to make the healthy decision, make the plant-based decision, and there's just no stigma around it. Like, you can still have that social experience that we all love and all crave, and make sure it's welcoming to everybody. And that's really what PlantPub came from. And I come from the craft beer world, and I was starting a brewery here in the Boston area when all of my plant-based journey started. And I love tap rooms. I love breweries. I love the feel of those places on a Sunday afternoon with dogs running around, and the 65-year-old there right next to the 21-year-old hip kid, and it's this really cool mesh of people and atmosphere. And I wanted to bring that, but to do it in a more conscious way for everybody's health and the planet's health.
When is PlantPub gonna open up?
That's a question I have yet to answer yet. But
I know you have a location though.
Yeah, midsummer. In an ideal world, it's July. And this one is kind of a toned down kind of our COVID model, if you will. Although everything seems like it's going to be opening up here by the beginning of June, but much smaller footprint. So this isn't the full on kind of beer hall social experience. It'll have some seats in it, but it's more of a fast casual, smaller footprint type setup, and that's how we'll launch.
And that's in Kendall Square.
Correct. Yep.
What is exciting you about PlantPub?
I think just I'll give you an example. Last week I was getting together with a couple friends, and they're both plant-based as well, and and we were going to go out, and there isn't the staple place that you just say, all right, let's go there.
Right.
Where I've been going lately for that is driving down to Providence to Plant City.
Sure.
If you're familiar, and that's like the quickest place for good plant-based food and kind of like a social atmosphere. And I'm just super excited that hopefully in Boston in 2021, when you're going out to have a social experience, and whether you're plant-based or somebody in your group is plant-based, or you just want to eat a little better, that like PlantPub is that place that is the default place you go. And hopefully we'll have, more than one by next year, and hopefully a few in Boston. And it's just, it's kind of that default social plant-based experience that people say, hey, let's hop over to PlantPub.
I love that idea, by the way. I think it's fantastic because as a vegan in Boston, there really isn't much. I mean, there's some places that you can go and you can kind of work off the menu, but there's really very few places that you can go that's 100% plant-based. I think the market is there. I just don't think that the market's being served.
I 100% agree. And yeah, before PlantPub, I did a little pop-up down in Quincy. Same concept, plant-based beer hall, and we just kind of tested the concept out prior to raising money for it and doing what we're doing now. And that to me gave me full confidence. I mean, we had people coming down from New Hampshire. We had people, taking the train down from Boston to Quincy, which is like not a, Quincy isn't really a place people go to. So we had all kinds of people traveling for it, and kind of made a lot of noise in the few months that we were kind of testing the waters there. And so we know the market's there, and I totally agree. It's just not being served, and more specifically, it's not being served in what I would define as a Bostonian in a Boston way.
I agree. Now, where did you get the courage to start PlantPub? Because I know that you had some difficulty with a startup that you were working with at one point, and that didn't work out as well as you wanted it to. So where did you get the courage to start a whole new venture?
Well, I think I feel like I've been failing at ventures since, I got out of college. And I think courage for me has come from that. And I realized at a young age, right out of college, I lasted about 3 months at my first job. And I just knew, like, not having a very clear goal and direction and purpose was not for me. I just couldn't. I'm not at peace in my day to day when I don't have a very, very clear goal. And so I've been starting businesses, since I was 22, and first one in tech. I've certainly failed at a few different things in between, but then the brewery, and now this. And I think it's just a learned behavior. I'm totally okay. I have failed at things, whether it's a talk or a business or sports, throwing an interception to lose the game or whatever. I think that taught me at a young age that, like, these things we fear are not that bad at all. Like failing at something and being concerned about what other people think, and failing at something that is your whole life, right? And then you fail at it, and what you think and what you feared was going to happen, and all this judgment and all of these bad things coming, like, the reality is that doesn't happen. So I think that fear of what could happen if I failed in front of everybody prevents a lot of people from doing it. And I've just learned, and maybe I was bad at it when I first started failing, but now I just am totally okay with failure and looking like an idiot. And that frees me up to just go after things I want to go after. So I certainly don't set out to fail.
No.
And I don't define everything I've done as a failure. I define them as all wins leading to what I'm doing now. And I've learned so much from everything I've done. So that's how I view it. I'm okay if I fall flat on my face. I just really don't care.
Right. I always think of that as kind of the Edison complex or whatever, with Thomas Edison inventing the light bulb. I don't think of it as failure. I just think of it as experiences. And I think he said something to the effect of, I just found 99 ways not to do the light bulb. You know what I mean? So
exactly.
And you take the experience from the things that have happened in your life, and you keep moving forward. And that, I think, is very admirable.
Totally.
How does it feel to live aligned with your values? I mean, everything that you got going seems to go right around your values, which is amazing. I mean, everything from PlantPub to your diet to your podcast to your book to your talks, they all go around that. How does that feel to be aligned with your values?
That is a amazing question. I mean, it feels amazing, and it feels. I guess what I would say is it feels right. It feels, yeah, it just feels right. Like I feel like I discovered what I'm here to share, at least for now, with the world.
Right.
And I don't think there is anything more important than giving people the power to take their health back. And I don't think there's anything more empowering and powerful than giving somebody the ability to spend more years on this planet with the people they love. And I'm just aware of like the shortness of life. And I just know, and I've seen, my grandparents have their life cut short and, miss decades with, their grandkids. And I just feel like I'm doing something important.
Right. No, I
That's,
agree.
I mean, and that feels good. And why would I do anything that is not aligned with that? Like, to me, it's a waste of my time. And I feel like I have this knowledge for a reason, and I have this ability, hopefully, to communicate it. And I, was born into a great family and given a lot of opportunity. And what am I doing if not everything about me is aligned with that and focused on that? So it feels amazing. I guess that's what it feels like, to answer your question. And yeah, I just don't think there's anything more powerful. There's literally, to me, there is nothing more powerful than giving somebody that ability to spend more time with their loved ones. And that's why I do what I do.
Yeah, I love that. Now, what's one habit or hack that kind of helps you stay on track with your plant-based diet?
I would say it's probably a mindset. And this one might be a little weird or different. But as crazy as it sounds, like I don't think about food very often, if at all. And I think so many people that struggle with their health, food consumes them, right? And it used to consume me. It used to be all I thought about, right? I used to be thinking about grams of protein and calories and when to eat and what to eat and like X, Y, Z. And food to me it's extremely important, but it's also not important at all. Like, I don't really care what I have for breakfast, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's an apple or a banana, or like I'm not trying to make anything gourmet or anything like that. So it's kind of this, for me, it's like this realization that it's just kind of like a necessity. Like, it's not what gets me up in the morning. I'm not, super fired up to get up so I can go to brunch and have like whatever. It's just like food is just there to fuel me so I can bring value to people and pursue the things I want to pursue. So I think what keeps me on track is just remembering that like it's just not that important, although it is super important. It's just kind of a part of my day, and I don't overthink it, and I don't worry if I'm not getting this or I'm not getting that, or I haven't eaten in a couple hours or whatever. It just kind of flows and fits in versus it consuming my thoughts all day.
Right. Now, your power over food, do you feel that that is 100% attached to your plant-based diet? Or have you always felt this way?
I would say it's been very much heightened with the plant-based diet, um, just because my tastes have changed so much, and it is difficult to give up buffalo chicken calzone. You know,
Mm-hmm.
but once it's gone, it's gone, and I feel like I used to have control in a sense of like I could really, if I needed to string together 4 days of super strict, like what I perceived as healthy, I had the willpower to do it. But I used to be very like almost like binge and purge ish.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would be strict as anything, like Monday through Friday. And then on the weekends, I'd have kind of like my cheat weekends and things like that. And there was always this like flux of kind of like all in or like kind of the wheels come off.
Right.
And I think a lot of people are kind of in that cycle. And now I just feel like I have control because 99% of what I put in my body is very health promoting. And I don't have like the addictions to like cheese, for example,
Mm-hmm.
and sort of all the things that people actually really do physically get addicted to, or the high sugar stuff and the stuff that come in packages. Like I don't have those like crazy endorphin type things anymore. And I feel like I'm way more in control, and there isn't the binge and purge. It's just kind of like a life 7 days a week of eating healthy.
Is there a book or cookbook that you have gifted most to somebody transitioning to a plant-based diet?
How Not to Die by Dr. Michael Greger. I'm sure you're familiar.
Yeah.
The first book that opened my eyes and got me thinking about not about protein, but about disease and longevity, and that was a big one for me. And I think it's done really well. And that's probably the biggest one. On the cookbook front, I always recommend Thug Kitchen,
Right.
especially to men. I recommend that one just because it swears and it's kind of off color a little bit and fun. Those are probably the two big ones.
Now, finally, can you give me one word to describe how you felt before you became vegan, and one word to describe how you feel now that you are vegan?
Before, average. After, unstoppable.
Nice. Average and unstoppable. He's unstoppable, Pat McAuley, everybody. Hey, Pat, it's such a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for taking the time. What's the best way for people to find you on Instagram, social media, the web?
I am at Eat Green, Make Green everywhere, eatgreenmakegreen.com. Best place social media-wise is probably Instagram.
All right, there it is. Thank you so much for being here, Pat.
Thank you, Fred.
Hope you are inspired by this story, and remember, it's never too late to plant your seed. Links to everything we talked about on the podcast can be found on Instagram at plant.yourseed in the show notes tab in the bio. If you enjoyed the show, remember to leave us a review, and until next time, thank you for listening.